So let me go ahead and get everyone checked in before we get started. So, Mr. Koenig, welcome. Thank you. Is it Charlie Williams?
Yes, sir.
And representing the firm here today, or?
Yeah, I'm the president of the.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Charles Williams is, I'm going to introduce him, but he's the president of CBLF, it's the St. Blue Line Foundation. And also with us is one of the board members, Captain Steve Saunders. This is St. Police Department, he's a board member of CBLF. And hopefully we get by Zoom Jonathan Evans, who's our engineer.
Yeah. He's familiar, he's just in a lot of
Right.
these versions, so he should be able to join us.
He told me that. Well, he said he might have to do it on his iPhone on the side of the road.
Yeah, yeah, which is, again, that's fine. So
Right.
we'll allow. Okay. So looks like we have Tom Talley. Mr. Talley, are you with us? If so, if you could unmute.
Here.
Okay, great. Mr. Talley, are you an adjacent property owner? Is that right?
Yeah, I'm a manager for WXIX TV who owns the property just up the hill from you.
Okay, great. Mr. Talley, my name is David Sturkey. I'm the zoning hearing examiner. I'll be administering the hearing here today.
Okay.
I just checked in Peter Koenig, who's an attorney for Blue Line Foundation, and two representatives of Blue Line Foundation. So
Okay.
they're the applicants here today. All right. We also have with us Wes Menzel. Wes, if you could unmute.
Good afternoon. Actually, I just realized you guys are downstairs. Would it be easier if I came downstairs?
Completely up to you.
Okay.
Yes.
I might just come downstairs because I think it's
The only
helpful.
benefit to him being on his computer is that he can share his screen. So if there's images or pictures that he wants to show, they'll pop right up on the TV. But Wes, it is your call. It's whatever you think is best.
I might come down there just to be in the same room as you guys. So
Come on down. I can pull images up down here too.
You can.
okay.
And
You did a masterful job on a 5-hour historic conservation board hearing. Remember that? Back in January, or February. Yeah. I think it was only February.
back on.
Remember that one? You took a break and somebody sat in for you, then you came back.
It's back on.
I sat in my office. It started at 3 or 4,
Yeah.
went over to 8 or 9 o'clock.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Thank you. Though. Appreciate that. Okay, looks like Wes is on his way down, and then the last person we have here is Jared Yagi. He is a legal intern with the law department this summer, so he'll just be observing and hopefully helping a little bit with the decision after the Okay,
I'm sorry, Jared's with which firm?
Yagi. He is not with the firm. He is a summer intern
With
with the
city?
City of Cincinnati
Oh,
Law
fine.
Department, and is a current upcoming 2L at the University of Cincinnati.
Welcome.
All right. There are a few administrative things that I need to cover before we get started. So,
David, there's somebody in the waiting room by phone, I think.
John Evans.
Yeah, I think that's his number.
Mr. Evans, are you with us? So you'll need to unmute. Mr. Evans has heard my spiel before, so let's, for the sake of time, let's go ahead and get started as he tries.
Oh, his last 3 digits are 810.
Yeah,
That's
that's it.
what I saw. Is that what it was?
That's what it is.
Yeah, that's Jonathan Evans.
Jonathan, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Are you able to get the video working on your phone?
I don't know if it's because it's plugged into my car or not. Let me try to plug that, see if that helps at all.
Okay, Jonathan, I'm going to give you a minute to sort that out. I'm going to start going through some of our administrative things I need to cover here. First is that this is being,
Okay.
all of these are recorded and kept on file at the city. We also have a YouTube live stream going. This is a public hearing, so the public can tune in and watch if they would like via YouTube. And the last thing I need to do is read through our hearing script and some kind of procedure for the hearing, and then we'll jump right into it. So this is the June 22nd, 2022 session of the zoning hearing examiner docket. My name is David Sturkey. I'm the zoning and hearing examiner for the city of Cincinnati, and I'll preside over this hearing. The case before us today is case number ZH202200079. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and opposing parties to testify and to offer compute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and supplemental rules of the zoning hearing examiner. All testimony, evidence that an applicant or any opposing party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing unless the party has submitted evidence or testimony in the form of writing prior to this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. Anyone from the public will then have an opportunity to speak after the applicant has presented his case. If the applicant is represented by an attorney, the applicant's attorney may cross-examine any person who is specified at this hearing. If a party of record is represented by an attorney, the attorney for the party of record may present witnesses after the applicant has presented his case and may cross-examine any person who is specified at this hearing. In the event that any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to an application, the applicant shall have an opportunity to rebut that testimony and argument offered in opposition. After the applicant has been given that opportunity, any attorney for a party of record will have an opportunity to make a closing statement. Finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to make a closing statement. So for our purposes here today, I will give Mr. Koenig an opportunity to present this case, to call witnesses. You can, ask them questions, or you can just let them comment however they like. After you are done telling me about the case, about the application, background, features, or anything you think is important for me to make my decision, and of course, why you think I should grant the particular relief. I will then go to Mr. Talley. I'll give Mr. Talley an opportunity to provide any testimony that he would like. I will then go to Weston Mazzell, is on the plans examiner, if he would like to present the evidence or testimony. I'll give him that opportunity. I'll give you the opportunity to cross-examine anyone who has made any comments or testified. You can then, if you feel like you need to put on any rebuttal evidence in response to any of that testimony from the public or from Mr. Mazzell, I'll allow you to do that. And then finally, I'll allow you to make any closing statements. After all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing session to make the expected 2 weeks. Testimony that relevant process scope of the application considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or make comments. And they also refuse to consider hearsay testimony, which for this court's purposes is just evidence that consists of statements made by someone who's not present at this hearing. That's generally how I interpret it, but it's discretionary. In the event of any technical difficulties with our Zoom technology, I'll do my best to troubleshoot those on the fly to the extent it prevents us from meaningfully going forward with this hearing way. I may continue on this problem hearing by discretion. Okay, that's it. The last thing I need to do is swear in all our witnesses. So anyone who intends on providing any testimony here today, if they have any comments, ask any questions, I can swear him in once he figures it out. Intends on asking any questions, making any comments, doing anything other than just strictly observing, and you're not an attorney, you need to be sworn in. So if that's you, if you could, Mr. Talley, if you could take yourself off mute.
Yeah, I got disconnected there for a second. I'm here.
Okay, I'm going to swear in all of our witnesses. So if you'd like to provide any testimony, I'll need you to swear right now by raising your right hand.
Okay.
And that's for everybody. Okay. You solemnly swear the testimony you shall.
I solemnly swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. That works. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Talley. I'm going to throw you back on mute.
Okay.
All righty. Okay. Mr. Koenig, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Sturkey, zoning hearing examiner. Thank you, and Mr. Munsell for coming down. Appreciate it. My name is Peter Koenig. I'm the applicant and attorney for the applicant, Cincinnati Blue Line Foundation. I want to update the record a little bit. With me today is Charles Williams, and immediately to my left, he's the president of the Cincinnati Blue Line Foundation. To his left is City of Cincinnati Police Department Captain Steve Saunders. Captain Saunders is also a board member of the Cincinnati Blue Line Foundation. And our technical witness today is Jonathan Evans, who we hope joins shortly. He's available by teleconference or phone. He's a project engineer and can address the water detention issues on site and off site. The property address on the application is 2060, 2070, and 2080 Radcliff. I'm here to represent as an officer of the court, that within the past 4 weeks, the 3 separate parcels, the parcels are identified at the auditor's office as 169-7-25, 26, and 32. Those 3 parcels corresponding to 2060, 2070, and 2080 Radcliff, those 3 parcels have been consolidated. A consolidation plat has been accepted by the Hamilton County Engineer's Office and the Recorder's Office. And there is a brand new auditor's sheet, which is available online. I have a copy with me. I'm happy to present it into evidence if you would like it. But the new auditor's sheet says that those 3 parcels are now void, and there is a new consolidated parcel number 169-0007-0033. So it's similar to the other 3 parcels I mentioned earlier, but it's 33 instead of 25, 26, and 32.
Have you submitted that as a part of the?
No, I'd like to move that it be admitted today.
Sure, I'll mark it as a point.
Okay. And also, we have been in contact within the last 2 weeks with the Hamilton County, or excuse me, the City of Cincinnati Department of Transportation and Engineering, and a new property address has been assigned for this address. It will be 2060. Next door, the Cincinnati Art Museum parcel, for reference, its address is 2050. The new parcel address for these 3 consolidated parcels will be 2060 Radcliff Drive. All right. Also, within the past 2 weeks, the property has been formally transferred from the Fraternal Order of Police, Queen City Lodge number 69, Property Holdings LLC to the Cincinnati Blue Line Foundation. We identified Cincinnati Blue Line Foundation in our application as the owner. There was a contract between the FOP and the CBLF, and the deal closed recently, and all the documents have been signed, and it's now in the hands of the title company to record the deed, and I would expect that to happen tomorrow or Friday. So the property is owned by the Cincinnati Blue Line Foundation. So that clears up a lot of issues. So we've got a new address, 2060. We have a new parcel number, 169-7-33, and we now have title properly and fully and completely in fee simple in the name of the Cincinnati Blue Line Foundation. That's my preliminary comments.
Thank you.
The property is vacant. It's zoned manufacturing general with a hillside overlay. It's located in South Fairmont. We come before you with reasonable requests for relief from the strict enforcement of the zoning code in 3 respects. We need 2 variances, and we need a conditional use approval. Nobody is negatively impacted by granting Cincinnati Blue Line Foundation's requests, and no real estate is negatively impacted by granting the requests. The project is clearly in the public interest. We have supporting letters in the record already from the South Fairmont Community Council, which is the designated community council for this area, and from the Hillside Trust. I'm told that our neighbors on the south side, the Hamilton County Regional Communications Center, and on the north side by the Cincinnati Art Museum support our project as well. There is a detailed and exemplary staff report that recommends approval of all 3 of our requests. In sum, our project is to build and operate a regional public safety campus that addresses law enforcement's needs for advanced training, wellness support, and community engagement. At this point, what I would like to do, Mr. Hearing Examiner, is to respectfully request that our application, all of the attachments and exhibits be accepted and admitted into evidence along with Exhibit A for today. Is that accepted?
Yes.
Yeah. And with that, I would like for Charles Williams, the president of Cincinnati Blue Line Foundation, to tell you a little bit about the foundation in this project. And then Captain Saunders will talk about the need for this project and how it relates to advanced training for law enforcement, community engagement, and wellness.
Sure.
Mr. Williams, will you please identify yourself for the record and tell us your role with Cincinnati Blue Line Foundation, tell us about the mission of Cincinnati Blue Line Foundation, and then talk about this project.
Sure. Mr. Gage, thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction. Thanks for having us today. Again, my name is Charlie Williams, and I'm the president of the Blue Line Foundation. So for some background, we were formed in 2017, and our mission is to ensure the safety and well-being of our community by providing advanced training as well as community development programs for law enforcement professionals and the citizens they serve. So this is truly meant to be a community project. It's meant to be regional. So while it is located here in the city of Cincinnati, this is meant to be a regional training facility for law enforcement. There are a couple of facilities that are similar to this across the country, one being in Philadelphia, the other being in Denver. And so it was identified through, a lot of due diligence that we did on the front end that a facility like this would not only be beneficial to the local communities, but the greater community of greater Cincinnati at large. So we went about putting together a team that I am extremely proud of, that I think have done a lot of great work from a due diligence standpoint. And we started reaching out to the community. And so through 2018 and 2019, we had, I'd say, anywhere between a dozen to 20 meetings with what I would consider community stakeholders to just share with them our vision, what we thought made sense, kind of where we were, where we are, and where we were going. And every step along the way, we had nothing but positive feedback. So, after the conclusion of those meetings, we decided to take the data that we had gathered and really come through what the necessary steps were going to be to really get this project off the ground. Just as we were about to kind of put finishing touches on that project, then COVID hit and the world went flat. So that gave us an opportunity, and that gave us an opportunity to spend a lot of time on the community development piece, knowing that the development of the property potentially was going to be secondary. So we did as much, and I think that we've made a lot of community inroads. We continue to. Former Cincinnati Police Department Chief Isaac, now UC Police Chief Isaac, is on our board, as well as the current Cincinnati Police Department PIO, Don Robinson. And so, we have gone to great lengths to try to make sure that we have the right pieces in place, not only from a community standpoint, but also from a law enforcement standpoint. So, this ground was good.
Yeah, can you tell them about the acquisition of this ground?
Yes.
And how this fits with the mission statement to get this development approved? Yes, two variances and conditional use.
So the fraternal order police were able to actually secure the ground initially. They just had the infrastructure within kind of the law enforcement community to be able to pull off something like this. But I think pretty soon afterwards, that there was an identification that us as the foundation were going to be the best vessel to be able to pull this off, not the FOP. So that's kind of been the operating modus operandi for quite a while. And as I mentioned, there was a goal to have advanced training, also to have this community engagement, and we needed to have a campus to be able to do that. So given what our mission is, and given the fact that the FOP had already secured the ground, it was a perfect marriage for us to say, okay, well, why don't we then take stewardship of the ground and develop this campus? So
Can you tell me more about the mission in terms of the training? Is it going to just be training for police officers?
great question. No, it's going to be truly regional, and that's going to be federal, state, local.
This
So
is training above and beyond what these officers are already getting from their ordinary training.
correct. So, and I don't want to steal Steve's thunder if you want to step in, but what our research has shown is that you have how many law enforcement agencies?
Just in Hamilton County, you're looking at close to 50 law enforcement agencies, not just local. So that you have state and federal on top of that.
And each one of those departments has their own training, they have their own staff, they have their own process and procedures. But what happens is there isn't a consistent training, there isn't a consistent message. So what we identified is that, if you have a smaller department, and I don't want to pick one out of the blue, but we have, again, 50 some odd shoes that are here locally. And let's say it's a smaller department. If they need to go to get the training that we are looking to provide at this campus, they have to go to Columbus. And if they have to go to Columbus, that's taxing on a couple different levels. It's expensive for the department because they have to pay for lodging, food, and travel for those officers to go. They also are losing manpower. Those are officers that are no longer now available to work with these to kind of provide safety for their citizens because they're gone. So if we could provide that level of training, if not better, our goal is to have a world-class training facility there, then we can accomplish a lot of these different steps. One, we can provide, cost-effective and local training that they can't really attain. And secondly, we're going to have consistency in law enforcement and process procedures across multiple departments. So if you have somebody that gets pulled over, let's say in Cincinnati, or they get pulled over at Gulf Manor, the goal is that everybody's trained in the same book, they're going to have similar experiences. And we can ensure that by doing something like this. At the moment, you can have varying experiences.
It might be good. It's a very good question. And Mr. Sturkey, I know you're an attorney also, as I am. When I met with him early on, analogize it to continuing legal education. It's sort of continuing education for law enforcement. And now they have to go to Columbus. It's expensive for the taxpayers to send officers up there. And to use the Gulf Manor example, they lose one or two officers for a couple of days while they're up there. Here they can go home at night. The mileage isn't as much, and it's a new facility where they can be with other people. There's been a lot of changes in law enforcement, let's say, over the last couple of years, and this is to get further training and uniform standards, and that's what they're.
And we also see it can be a recruiting advantage. If we have a facility like this, we can attract top talent, right? Not that we won't already, but this is just something that will go above and beyond what we currently have.
Captain Saunders, would you step in here? Go.
Question.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned a community piece of this as well. Is this just going to be for police officer training, or is there some that maybe?
No, you're right. Keep going.
There were some community outreach.
Yeah, and Steve, I'll let you kind of.
Yeah,
the programming is going to be part of the time.
Exactly.
He'll weave that into his answer or come back to it. We're prepared for that. Let me introduce Captain Steve Saunders. He's a former public information officer for the police department when he was a lieutenant. He's been promoted to captain. He sits on the Cincinnati Blue Line Foundation board, and he can talk about the law enforcement agencies, the importance of this project, and what's involved with it, including the community development programs for people to educate everybody and get closer relations between police. Captain Saunders, go ahead.
So thank you so much for letting us here today and talk about this important mission. So to add on to what Charlie's already said about the training mission, this campus will take our training, not just for the Cincinnati Police Department, but for area law enforcement agencies to the next level. So you may have been to our academy down on Evans. It's a very small facility, even though it suits us well for the Cincinnati Police Department. It's not big enough to host larger trainings. We're somewhat limited in what we can do there. This doesn't take place of our academy at all. This will only augment our training as well as area law enforcement agencies in this area. The community piece, we do a lot of community programming as a Cincinnati Police Department, so do other law enforcement agencies. This will be a place where we can draw young people in, maybe people that are interested in law enforcement. You may be familiar with the Cincinnati Police Department Summer Cadet Program, which is a summer employment program. That is going on right now. And we're always trying to struggle to find places to host this training. Our youth services officers, leadership there does a fantastic job, but it will be fantastic to have that program situated at the Blue Line Foundation campus. The community gathering lawn, the officer wellness facility that we're hoping to have here, all those things would be perfect for that. And we also have the city camp program, which is an outreach program for kids that are suffering trauma. A lot of the kids that participate in the city's programs, children in crisis and trauma interventions, city camp is the acronym. A lot of these kids are survivors. They've lost family members to homicidal violence, other forms of violence, and they're struggling in school. And again, our youth services officers are engaging them in the summertime with programs that are going to lead them to have a better appreciation and understanding what law enforcement's role is in the community. Those are two examples, just for the Cincinnati Police Department. Last year, one of the programs that the Blue Line Foundation was able to put on with in partnership with Kings Island was Kids, Cops, and Coasters. Right, so that doesn't involve a campus, but we had an event that took these kids and other kids up to Kings Island, a positive community event. We hope to grow that and expand that within the region for other law enforcement agencies. So that's how we envision the community piece. We met with several community members. They're excited about it. This isn't a community center. It's not a rec center. It's a place where advanced training will happen for law enforcement, community engagement with the public will happen at this space. And again, officer wellness initiatives. That's a huge push for us and the Cincinnati Police Department as well as nationally. You might have seen the story just yesterday. In the last couple of days, we received a great donation through the Blue Line Foundation from the Planet Fitness franchise in this area. They had old equipment they had to donate. The Blue Line Foundation is the recipient of that equipment, and in turn, blessing the Cincinnati Police Department with that, now the County Sheriff's Department with some of that equipment, as well as several Cincinnati public schools. Those things, if we can make our officers healthier, mentally, physically, emotionally, that's just a win-win, and we recognize that. So Blue Line Foundation, again, is the host for those things, and that's where the campus idea comes into.
Camp Joy.
Yeah, so Camp Joy is a program we've been doing for almost 50 years now in the summertime, where we send police officers and kids to Camp Joy, which is all the way up in the Lebanon area. A lot of times we host reunions with those kids. We can bring Camp Joy to this campus and partly do some of it away because there's some great experience learning things that kids can do there, like rope climbing, rock climbing, and projects and whatnot. But having the kids, because the kids are from here, they're from Cincinnati, Hamilton County. That's who we serve. And again, we can pull other law enforcement agencies' kids in. And we're not the only one that has kids that are struggling with trauma, right? Mount Healthy does, Springfield Township does, Springdale does. All these agencies have that. And the more we can build relationships with people, young people, adults in the community, the better off we are. And we struggle in law enforcement with legitimacy. And building that legitimacy is tied in with trust. You don't get trust to legitimacy without having relationships. And that's what a big part of our effort is the Cincinnati Police Department, and the Blue Line Foundation will be the facilitator of that for the region. That's our hope.
Okay,
Thank you.
Steve, could you, well, I think that's pretty much what you were going to say.
What's that?
About the other law enforcement agencies that are using the facility,
Yeah.
or the type of training that goes on.
Yes.
Have you touched on that?
I can touch on that
Yeah.
for sure. So there is a lot of law enforcement training that happens, as Mr. King said, outside the region because we're required. The state has the Ohio Police Officer Training Academy requires so many hours of continued professional education. We do that for our officers at the Cincinnati Police Department's Academy on Evans Street, but we hope that we can host that type of training at the Blue Line Foundation campus for one, not just for our agency, but the region. And that's a piece. We've also, through the Blue Line Foundation, brought in, we paid for through the foundation training that is going to be and has been useful for not only our own department, but area departments. So we had a sponsored training for de-escalation, a train the trainer that we hosted at our academy, and it's a small venue. We can do something like that on steroids at the Blue Line Foundation campus, right? Imagine having a wellness convention or conference at the Blue Line Foundation campus. How impactful that will be for our region. Just several events. Apex Officer Training Simulator. So you may have seen we had a firearms training simulator we've had for years called the BAT system. It's kind of a big screen. You have it's a real pistol, but it has a laser pointer on the inside that interacts with the screen. This Apex virtual reality trainer immerses you in an experience that really focuses heavily on de-escalation. It is a virtual reality system where the officer wears the headset. They have a backpack and they have different tools and components they can use. The number one tool they can use is their voice and their brain, right? How they interact with people. What's cool about this system, it's also paid for through a donation to the Blue Line Foundation. We've given it to the Cincinnati Police Department for now. We'll expand that as the Blue Line Foundation mission expands for regional impact here. But the officers, while they're in the scenario, there's a trainer who's on the other end of that, who's guiding them through that. So let's say they walk into a situation where there's a person who's like driving a mental health breakdown, or they're having a situation of that, and coupled with addiction, alcohol or drug addiction, and they become violent. When they're in that engagement in the virtual reality setting, the trainer is actually in their ear talking to them, saying, if the officer's saying the right things, they can change the scenario outcome. If they're saying things that aren't working out really well and not de-escalating the situation, then it might become somewhat combative with the officer. But that's all controlled in the virtual environment through this. Again, as Charlie talked about, the Blue Line Foundation, because we were kind of impacted by COVID, we had to find ways to continue to work on the mission, find programming, find training that we can offer hosts. It's so important for a police department to have an organization like this, a foundation that can fill in the gaps, because we can't always budget for a virtual reality training or the additional training we'd like to have, these line items things. We're also working on, it's not a campus related thing, but working as a partner for a FEMA grant for a new patrol boat. So, we can step up and be that gap filler for that. That will help the city of Cincinnati and the regional impact, not just for police departments, but also first responders in the area. So a big mission. Charlie mentioned Philadelphia and Denver, two great examples where they already have a campus. They already have a foundation that's established, working really well on all those fronts, the same fronts we'd like to have.
And we've had really good interactions with the other law enforcement agencies here regionally. I mean, they know exactly what we're doing, why we're doing it, and we have the support. Was last week or the week before we met with Sheriff McGuffey and her staff, and they're completely supportive. I know we talked to the Chiefs Association, so
Police Association.
yeah, you know all the connections there. But everybody knows, what the mission is, why we're doing this, and they're all extremely supportive. So from the standpoint of wondering, okay, is this facility going to get used and built? Absolutely. Everyone's excited about it.
The reference to Sheriff McGuffey, of course, is Hamilton County Sheriff, and there's a good close relationship there. I want to get into the nitty gritty of the analysis on the zoning, but first, Charlie, could you just briefly explain the funding, because that's been mentioned a couple times here. The foundation is already set up. Will you just give a 30 second?
And I think some of that might already be evidence, but so the ask, the fundraising goal is right around $6 million, or $16 million, a little more actually. We're coming in now right around 8.5 to 9. That's a combination of private fundraising. So we've had wonderful corporate support from Fifth Third, from Western Southern, from farmer families, so like Cintas, amongst others that we are still talking to. Duke Energy is going to be providing some funding for programming and that kind of thing. So, we get wonderful interactions and commitments. I mean, these are $2 million roughly commitments apiece from our corporate partners to be able to get this off the ground.
And just within the last 30 days,
Within the last 2 weeks, we got $1.6 million from the state capital budget.
State of Ohio.
Yeah.
So they're about halfway there, and we're trying to get these approvals because they like to get under construction as soon as possible.
And we also have potential, funding sources from, getting in there. We have to do that.
So if I can jump in, do you have any more questions at this point? Mr. Williams or
I don't think so. No.
So I don't want to steal Wes's thunder, but he wrote a very nice and exemplary report. And he noted that some of these requests are only applicable, others are granted. And so I'm just going to go in the order that he presented them, not the order that we filed them for. First permission we need is for conditional use approval for the event center. There's been a lot of discussion so far about that because the event center is in the main building. It requires a conditional use because it's not an accessory use. It's customarily incidental to a training facility as noted in L10 of section 14-1305. Our event center is appropriately located, designed, and configured. It's and you have the floor plans in there, but it's in the main building. It will probably serve double duty, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, as sort of the, there it is, in the south, the bottom there. Yep.
This portion.
Yes. Yep. That's the building. and the event center use is in there. It doesn't require any height or setbacks from property lines, but it is, there's certainly adequate parking, more than adequate parking. Doesn't have any negative impacts on nearby properties. Right off the screen to the south of it, to the bottom of that, is the Hamilton County Regional Communications Center that was funded with Homeland Security money. It's a secure location with its own power plants, generators, and obvious 911, exactly. And they are fully supportive and of our project. We probably could have got a letter from them, but we didn't get that far. Yeah, there you go.
This building there.
That building right there. It's a very secure building, has bollards. The perimeter is protected. It's a gated entrance, and yeah, well, that's it. No negative impacts, and we've had no negative feedback from anybody. I'm not aware that anybody is opposed to this. Yeah, we don't think it has any negative impact. Now, let me just address this idea of traffic. One person at the South Fairmont Community Council said, now might be a good time to do a traffic study down there on, what was it, State and Lehman Roads. And that's pretty far away. And the primary reason he wanted it done was because of the construction of the new Western Hills Viaduct. The state, that they really wanted the city to do a traffic study, and it really is pretty far removed. It's off-site. It wasn't on any of the maps that you've shown so far. So I don't think there's any adverse impact of our development on traffic, police, fire, other public services, no deprivation of light or air from any adjoining properties, no negative impacts, at all. And the event center use will probably do double duty. There will not be a public restaurant in the facility. There will be a catering kitchen so that when law enforcement is there getting continuing education, they'll have breaks for meals and sodas and things. It is not, it won't be open to the public, but it's not a private club either. It's envisioned that possibly down the road, there may be events there such as marriages, funerals, and the like. So we agree with the staff report that recommends approval of the conditional use for the event center. Moving on to the front yard location variance, if you go back to that plat, if you come up Radcliff to the north side now of the development, right past the art museum, you see something that looks like a soccer field, and then in green, that is the accessory structure. If it was on its own parcel, which it used to be, and we applied for it separately, that building would be permitted. But because we are consolidating, and in fact have consolidated as we sit here today, all three parcels, we can't put an accessory structure without a variance. But that's the appropriate and reasonable location for it. It's compatible with the intent and purposes of the MG zoning district. It provides the ability to use a relatively large site in an effective manner. It's not detrimental to the welfare of the public or surrounding neighborhood or land uses because it's of modest size, slightly down the hill from the street. There's not a big visual impact, and it's adjacent to the parking lot and the athletic field. So a strict application of the zoning code would result in an unreasonable and a practical difficulty for us in constructing the accessory use somewhere else. And so we agree again with Mr. Munsel's conclusion that variance should be given.
What is the total square footage or acreage of the site?
It's 6+ acres, and the main building is 8,500 square feet, and the accessory building is 4,200 square feet, I believe. I'm gonna stand by those numbers, unless somebody's gonna correct me. In about 6 acres, over
Yeah.
6, yeah.
Sounds right.
I wonder if, here, the exhibit A has it, 7.6 acres. When they're all combined, 7.6 acres. So there's a lot of land there. It's a big parcel. Now, it used to be 3 parcels. And,
Square foot sounds right.
yeah, I think it's 4,200 for the accessory building, 8,500 for the main building. And then there's, I think it's 2 levels with a deck on the main level. You have nice views of the Mill Creek Valley and down all the way to downtown, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see this, just in my hand, I don't think that the exception, conditional use of the variance of the square footage, I don't think that's unreasonable. For the site and size of the actual property, it's perfectly reasonable.
Yes.
We'd like to hear more about the cut fill into the hillside, and I don't know about Mr. Evans.
It will be. So, Jonathan, let me just give you a brief introduction, then I'm going to turn it over to you. So, the Hillside Development Standards, 1433-19, you obviously have to consider certain things. I was out there with Eric Russo, the executive director of Hillside Trust, who walked the ground with me and has submitted a letter supporting our project, so long as the water does not go onto the west side, which is where there's a steep drop off and steep slopes. But what I'm here to tell you today is there are no cliff-like vertical slopes that are going to be resulting. There are no excessively high retaining walls. The direct cut or fill in any one location is less than 10 feet. The retaining walls are going to be a maximum of 5 feet along the edge of the parking lot, and the zoning plans examiner has concluded they are not a cliff-like situation. So that's important. And then the proposed structures here that you just noted, Mr. Sturkey, it's a large piece of ground, and these buildings are not large. They don't need any kind of building variances in height or setbacks. And most importantly for the hillside issue, they're not on the top of a ridge. They're on the top of a flat hilltop. And Eric Russo, the Hillside Trust, put in his letter and informed me when I was up there that the reason the top of this is flat, I think it's called Bald Mountain, is because the dirt was taken away to build Union Terminal, not to build Union Terminal, but to elevate where Union Terminal is above the Mill Creek floodplain. So when you drive up to Union Terminal, or when you see Union Terminal from a distance, it seems to sit on top of a little hill. Well, that little hill is the dirt that was removed from the top of this mountain. And it's now a flat top, relatively flat top. And there are no ridge issues. So the hearing examiner and the zoning plans examiner and the Hillside Trust talk about it's flattened and it's shallow slopes and very small grade changes. So it's really modest cut and fills in any one location with minimal excavation for driveways and parking. Again, it's built on the top of the hill. As far as one of the factors is preserving vegetation, that you have photographs in the record, there is no vegetation. It's a bunch of scrub stuff. There's no significant trees or anything worth.
Is that right?
That's it.
So these trees won't be affected?
Those probably would be. But I don't know. Jonathan, are you on? Can you step in and talk about this hillside issue? I think some of those trees will have to be removed, like the ones that you had the arrow on. But when you get close to where it drops off dramatically. If you go to the site visit, those trees will be undisturbed.
Yeah, I don't know how the site plan overlays on that.
I don't either. Maybe Wes. Jonathan, you're up. You have to unmute.
I don't think he's connected to the audio. Well, maybe you can. Try to unmute on your phone, John.
Yeah, swearing in.
Okay.
All right. Does that work better now?
Yeah, Jonathan, let me swear you in real quick here. You raise your
Okay.
right hand.
Fine.
If you'd raise your right hand, do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for allowing me to participate remotely here. I had a conflict of a meeting, but able to try to join you here remotely from this computer here. But anyway, Mr. Koenig did a wonderful job describing some of the cut and fill issues there, and I just would echo those again, that we've really done a great job of kind of working with the hillside. The property does slope from the south to the north. You know, we've situated the building on the south side of the property there and kind of built it into the top of the slope or the topography there. And then everything runs or drains to the north. Just the parking lot follows the natural grade for the most part. We do have one location that's where the detention pond will be built that actually situates on the Cincinnati Art Museum property. And I understand that it isn't necessarily being heard at today's hearing because it does fall on a separate parcel. But that location, we do have a cut that exceeds, the 8-foot limitation. It's about a 10.5 to 11 foot cut. But that is truly just cutting into a natural grade, not onto a hillside or not anything that would be, detrimental to the hillside. It's just being built to create a detention area to handle the stormwater runoff, which outlets back into Radcliff. So, it'd generally be cut into the rock once they go to build that pond. So it's certainly not going to be detrimental or have any impact onto the hillside, except to probably improve the situation because we're directing the water to a location, that's managing that storm water as opposed to letting it run off onto the hillside as it naturally does. So the rest of the site, as Mr. Koenig pointed out, we don't exceed anywhere. I think he may have referenced 10 feet, but it's actually more like 7 feet is the maximum fill and about 6.5 feet is the maximum cut we have throughout the site. So those in a normal setting, in my opinion, would kind of fall within the hillside regulations or hillside guidelines. So we don't have any large cuts or fills within this development. We're kind of just working again with the natural grade, the parking lot and the slopes that are there, just kind of following down through the natural grade and then, managing the stormwater as we go.
Okay. Do you know how much, if any, of the mature trees you'll have to eliminate on the outside there?
Yeah, I don't have that all identified. They essentially, we'll have to get rid of a few trees. I don't know. We have construction limits shown on our construction plans, but certainly, we're not getting over onto the steeper slopes at all. So we wouldn't have a need to clear anything as you get toward the edges or toward the fringes of the slope.
And between the detention ponds and any other stormwater management, is it going to be diverted away from the west side of the property as requested by the Hillside Trust?
Yes. Everything's going to be collected. The roof will be collected with roof drains, which will then connect into stormwater pipes. We have a storm network that runs through the parking lot, and it's been designed so everything kind of runs from the west side towards the north and east side. So it kind of follows or kind of pitches back in toward the road or toward, the art museum building is to the north. So again, everything that's we're touching or improving will be guided that direction. So nothing will be directed or allowed to go to the west.
Okay. I think that's all the questions I have.
Okay. Jonathan, can you explain the plan of development on the Art Museum site to take the water from the Blue Line Foundation site. Could you design the retention pond? And is
Yeah,
it
yeah.
will it be adequate to handle both the Art Museum and the Blue Line?
That's correct. And so it has been designed to accommodate stormwater for the Blue Line Foundation project, but also for a potential expansion at the Art Museum of their I guess they call it a museum, not a museum, but a warehouse, I guess you would refer to it as. But they had contemplated, we looked at it a couple of years ago, and that's when we started the design of it, but they had looked to do a potential expansion there. So the stormwater management facility that's being proposed here would accommodate, again, the Blue Line Foundation project, plus a potential future expansion for the Art Museum. And all of that drainage would be directed to the detention pond that we're proposing, which then again has an outlet that connects into the public sewer, storm sewer that's in Radcliff.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you for that presentation. I think if we still have Mr. Talley. Mr. Talley, are you still with us?
The only thing that I have to state for WXIX is, and I looked at the drawings, and it looked fine to me. Our concerns were that the builders and the people who are building the building below the tower is there's really no way we can stop ice from forming on the tower, and we cannot certainly stop it from shedding when the temperatures change. And we just wanted everyone to be aware that there is a potential risk for ice shedding off that tower at certain times of the year. The big concern that I had was we definitely don't want a Wesley building where they built a building right underneath the guy path, because trying to service the guy path, if anything's wrong, or replace the guy path, it becomes extremely difficult to service the tower. And from what I saw, you guys were building a soccer field, a main building that was more to the southwest, away from the guy path, and then a small utility building that looked like it was close to the guy path, but still not underneath the guy path. So that's really the only reason I attended the meeting, was just to make sure that there wasn't a building directly under the guy path going over that property. The other thing I wanted to make sure of is that the new owners and the new builders and building people that are going to be occupying that building are aware a couple of times a year I have to go over and maintain that guy anchor. And what I mean by that is I go over and inspect it, verify that there's no washout happening, the anchor's solid. I don't see any deterioration of the anchor or any deterioration of the cabling. I have a tower crew come out periodically, and they actually test the tensions on those wires to make sure the tower's safe. So that's primarily why I attended the meeting today. That's really all I have, gentlemen.
Mr. Talley, if I could ask you just a couple of follow-up questions. Are the towers directly sort of northeast
Yes,
of this proposed site?
yes, across the street.
So there's 3 towers on the Radcliff Drive area. 2 of them are smaller cell towers, and then there's about a 998 foot red and white tower that is it's not a self-support, it's a guy anchor tower, so it actually has wires that support the tower. That's the tower I'm referring to, is the large tower. It's the tallest one up there.
And do all of those towers shed ice?
All those towers shed ice. I've never worked for a TV station that hasn't had a tower that shed ice. We demolished several cars at the kidney. There's a kidney place there at McMillan and Sim Street when I worked for WCPO, and one year we shed ice so bad off that tower, we demolished probably 3 or 4 cars in the parking lot there. And there was nothing we could do to stop it.
Okay.
But it's an act of God. It's an act of God.
Right. And the guide path, is that going to be, is access to the guide path going to be obstructed at all as a result of this project?
The access to the guide path, I don't think would be a problem for me, as long as they understand that if we did have an issue with that guy anchor, there could be a potential for me having to take a piece of equipment across that soccer field back there to work on it. I mean, the likelihood of that's pretty slim. They do need to be maintained. If the cables need to be changed, yeah, we'll probably have to get a piece of gear out there. But I mean, it'd be something that is going to be so few and far between from happening that it's not a regular occurrence. I just wanted everybody to be aware that, you know, we do need a variance for us to get back there to maintain that guy anchor to make sure the tower stays safe. That's all.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Talley?
No, I don't. That's it. I don't object to the building. I don't object to the soccer field. I mean, if you look at the field that's up there now, I agree with the other gentleman before. Pretty much everything by the road, almost all the way back to the edges where the cliffs at, or the really steep area is to the west and the northwest, all that's just overgrown weeds and brush anyway. It's not, there aren't any mature trees there. It's, you know, for them to plant grass and make a beautiful building there, I think it'll be a great thing. I really do.
Okay. Mr. Talley, Peter Koenig, the attorney for the applicant, has a question for you.
Sure.
Mr. Talley, hi. My name's Peter Koenig, and I'm the attorney. I don't think we've been able to talk before. Have you had any contact with anybody at the FOP or St. Blue Line Foundation?
I have not.
Okay. Well, we appreciate that you think it looks fine, and you sound supportive of the project, and you just want us to be aware of the fact that sometimes, you know, when it's cold, there's ice. Ice can come off the tower. I mean, I work downtown, and ice can come off buildings, and you know, it's sort of an assumption of the risk. And I'm sure that when we get under construction, we hope to do that in the fall. Hope to be in about 18 months. I'm sure that we'll have an opportunity to get together with you and to make sure that we cooperate as good neighbors, to make sure that you can do what you need to do with your property, and we'll work together with you. And it's nice to meet you. Thank you.
Nice to meet you too. Pleasure talking to you all, and thank you again for letting me attend.
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Talley. Okay. I'm going to turn to zoning plans of Denver West. So, Wes, you have any testimony with this?
I don't. I think Peter highlighted, of course, information in the report that I wrote, and I guess I just want to highlight that we have a condition outlined about the detention pond parcel receiving any variances or permits prior to granting a permit for the construction of the training facility, because the detention is towards offsite.
Sure. Yeah. So they'll have to go through a separate variance process for the detention.
Yeah. Well, I have a question about that. Can I, when you're finished, can I?
Yeah. Anything else?
Okay. On that issue, if we have to come back, we will. Okay. But it seems to me that in light of Mr. Evans's testimony, and he designed the detention pond already, and it's going to accommodate future development at the Art Museum property if they ever do it. And I've been told recently they have no plans to do it in the next couple of years. Everything's on hold. But this is going to be a large detention pond that can accommodate both parcels. So we respectfully request that rather than have to come back for another full, go through a full application and zoning hearing, that you grant the 3 requests that are pending before you today, and make it a condition of the granting of the request that we provide you, or probably provide the law department with a copy of the signed easement agreement. It's my understanding the requirements are we have the permission of the Art Museum, and I can't speak for the Art Museum, but I will tell you, we have, I believe we have permission, and my law partner working under my supervision and direction is in consultation with the Art Museum's executive director and their attorney, and we have already exchanged a number of drafts. So we're getting close to having a final, very buttoned down and very professional, good easement agreement between the Cincinnati Art Museum, the owner of 2050, and Cincinnati Blue Line Foundation, the owner of what I'm now calling 2060 Radcliff Drive. So we'll have an easement agreement that will outline duties and responsibilities, paying for it, maintaining it. And we think that if that is accepted and is reviewed and accepted by the law department, that's a sufficient condition you could put into this decision, and we would adhere to that. We not get a permit until the easement agreement is signed off on by the law department. And furthermore, that Mr. Evans will submit his plans, and they'll have to do this anyway, to the stormwater management and to MSD if they're involved, SMU I think it's called, and that they approve his plans. So rather than come back, I guess what I'm saying is put it in there as a condition to this. I realize it's off-site, but if we get approval for the off-site and if we have a deal with the art museum, I think that should be sufficient. If we have to file another application, we will, of course. We're not going to appeal your decision, but we think there's an economy of scale and judicial efficiency and scarce resources in the planning department if we just do it all today. And with that, I would just conclude by respectfully requesting that you grant our conditional use and our 2 variances.
Yes, let's put a pin in the pond for now. And is there anything else you want to provide on this application for review for these 3?
Now I have a new exhibit. I'll present to you.
Here, you can just leave it there.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. I don't believe that I have any more questions on this. So, yeah, I've had a chance to review the application materials. I'm familiar with the site. I've reviewed the staff report based on that, based on the testimony I've heard here today. I am going to approve the request for conditional use of the variances and the hillside district relief. So the application that's in front of you today is beautiful. So best of luck with the project. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
The other portion of that is a little trickier. If there is zoning relief that is required in order to construct the detention pond, Wes, I was going to ask you if you have a sense of that now.
I do.
There are sort of 2 avenues that usually takes.
Okay.
One is zoning administrator approval at staff level, where
Wes could approve it.
Wes, conjunction with
Emily?
House,
Yeah.
would be able to approve it on the staff level, depending on the circumstances of it, which I just don't have in front of me.
I'm not familiar with any kind of staff level approval for something that needs a variance, but
Well, yes, so you're certain that,
I calculated that it has a cut of approximately 13 feet, so it's 5 feet over the.
But Jonathan testified that it's really, it's pretty flat.
yeah, I think that it would need to be,
So we're gonna have to
the
file
actual process.
just to make sure it's dot every I, cross every T. You want us to file a new application for zoning relief. It won't be this, right?
Sure.
It'll
Yeah.
be Jonathan's plans, a letter from me.
So I think the first thing I would suggest that you do is make sure that the zoning department has a full scope of what exactly that project would entail.
Okay.
Exactly what this project are.
Yeah, I sent Peter a denial letter for it's part of the application for.
Right.
Just for the bond.
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Because I think I sent a letter to Emily and to Wes saying, hey, can't we just do it this week? And basically what I just sent to you and a letter, and he wrote me back and sent me a denial letter. Yeah, and I have it somewhere. I have it right here. Denial letter dated June 16th. He's reviewed my request. And he says, we need a variance to allow excavation not tied to a specific development on the same parcel per section 1433-19G. Relief of approximately 6 feet from the 8-foot limit on cumulative cut and fill, so that the hillside district,
Gotcha.
et cetera.
Okay. So you just haven't actually technically applied for that.
No, because we want to, part of that's going to be that we have approval, or that we have permission to do the work on the art museum site, and that requires us to put together a signed easement, right?
Right. Okay.
Can I give you an unsigned draft of it?
If you know that it's final, it could be helpful.
Okay.
But yeah, I would want to take a look at the final draft of the
Yeah.
easement.
We can do
whether
that.
signed or not.
I-
There is a process for a hearing waiver if.
The art
you'd
museum?
like to pursue that. We can cover that. City can have that.
Hearing waiver, who grants the waiver?
Yes,
It's just a waiver from having this meeting, not the variance application.
yeah.
So we don't have to file the variance application. You just review our easement agreement.
And you still have to file, and then David waives the hearing.
If you have buy-in from adjacent property owners and community council, which it sounds like. you're going to do,
Yeah.
Then I can waive the hearing.
Okay.
Written documentation of that. And then I can just review the application on its face.
Okay.
And approve it, without having to go through the actual hearing process and set up applications and do what we did today.
So when I get the art museum to agree in the easement agreement, they
I'll do this separate.
are aware.
Maybe you do a separate application, but to get eligible for the hearing waiver, you need to have all the abutting property owners sign the site plan and the South Fairmont Community Council sign off. I tell people it doesn't really save you any time.
I was just going to
Do all
say,
the site
it's
work.
going to be easier for Cassandra to mail out the notices and we'll show up.
Yeah, it's
Tom showed up today. We didn't know he'd be there. It's fine.
pretty straightforward.
The art museum will know because I'm going to tell them. The agreement says that we agree to cooperate and support each other. So
And so we're more than happy to come back. So,
Yeah.
Sure. In short, there needs to be some
Got it.
process to it.
got it.
I'll talk.
Yeah, see if we can get a waiver. But we're getting close. Once we have the deal signed, then I'll get something from Jonathan to address the variance, the cut and fill part. Do you think we're exceeding the cut and fill requirements?
Yeah, I mean, the bottom of the pond is 673 and the existing grade is 686 or something like that.
So we need a couple.
It's,
All right.
it's a
Let me go
very,
ahead and formally end this hearing. So thank you all for your time and testimony. We are adjourned.